GOP race for the White House with some significant moves by a couple of candidates and a look at how they match up head-to-head with former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Let's talk about it now with our political panel, Democratic political consultant Richard Goodstein and GOP strategist Sean Noble. Great to see you both today. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, so let's start with this new GOP poll that we were showing there. Now, Scott Walker has vaulted to the top. He's had a lot of buzz, a couple of blips, but Sean, do you think he holds on to that spot?
Well, I think polls at this point are pretty meaningless. This is so
with
so
only
early.
20 months to
only
go?
20 months to go, and because it's a national poll of Republican primary voters, the nomination is done by a state-by-state process. Walker does have the strength of being probably the most battle-tested candidate the Republicans have ever put up. I mean, this guy's been through 3 insanely tough elections in the last 4 years. He's totally vetted. There's going to be nothing that's surprising. There's going to be no skeletons that come out of his closet. As far as the others, you look at Jeb Bush, he's now number 2. I think the nomination gets harder and harder for him because he's doubling down on Common Core. It's going to make it tougher for him to get through Iowa and New Hampshire. If his whole strategy is on Florida, then it's going to be very late. Florida has March 15th winner take all, but now Illinois and potentially Wisconsin is going to be on that same day, so that changes the formula. The dark horse here is Marco Rubio. If things continue to go as badly as they are in the Middle East, if ISIS continues to march forward, the American people in the same poll that you cited, 78% didn't think that Obama had any kind of a plan to deal with ISIS. As that continues to be the frame, foreign policy, national security, Marco Rubio is the clear beneficiary because there is nobody that's got better foreign policy chops than Marco Rubio in their candidate.
Well, I thought it was interesting. In the same poll, they looked at the positive and negative, the favorables and unfavorable for candidates on both sides of the aisle. The only 3 that had net positive, and we're talking about Democrats and Republican, were Walker, who's now at the top of the GOP poll, Ben Carson, who's had some stumbles, and Marco Rubio. So, Richard, what do you make of that? Those are the only 3 that have more people like them and view them favorably than unfavorably.
Well, certainly for Hillary Clinton, and I'll be charitable, it's Easter, this Fox poll was a bit of an outlier. There were 2 recent ones, one CNN, one ABC Washington Post, and both of those, Hillary was running 15 points ahead, head-to-head in virtually every single Republican candidate. And her favorables were like 50-39 in the last one of those. We'll find out whether this Fox poll kind of stands up.
Yeah, because in this poll, it does have her at a -3.
I understand. I'd be a little nervous on Scott Walker for this reason. He's number 1, and 53% of the people in the Fox poll said they either never heard of him or have no opinion of him. So what does that say about the Republican electorate if they're basically putting at number 1 somebody that they don't really know who he is? So, I'd rather be where Hillary Clinton is, 18 of 21 years, the most admired woman in the world.
Even in the midst of what she's dealing with right now.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Again, look, her husband has the highest numbers he's ever had, ever. She's, again, if these other polls, even the Real Clear Politics averages, she's up 8, 9, 9 against all the ones that Sean just mentioned. So, yes, I'd definitely rather be her today. Not a real tough primary looking like it's going to come up for her.
If any primary.
Well,
if any at all.
And I think that's part of the challenge that she faces, actually, is that Democrats who don't go through primaries, this happens on a state-by-state basis. You see it in governor's races and those kind of things. When there's not a primary, there's not an opportunity to get better. Now, she has been a candidate before, but she's been out of the game for a long time. And if Bill were on the ballot, I'd certainly say that this is a game changer. But I think that this is, look at what she did with the email situation. And part of the reason that your poll shows that her favorability has gone upside down is because people are the chipping away at the trust issue. I mean, elections are about trust. She stood up at a press conference and said, I wanted to have the convenience of one device. We now know from an AP story that she was sending emails from an iPad as well as from her BlackBerry. She consciously, deliberately lied to the American people. I think that one issue is not going to be the downfall, but the culmination of deception and half-truths is going to continue to hurt her.
Let me get to a couple of polls and give Richard the last word here, because we talk about Hillary Clinton. Our poll shows she's a -3 when it comes to favorability, showing her up against numerous of the GOP candidates. Those have tightened quite a bit, as they're going to with 20 months to go on this whole thing. But now our poll's showing her even with Jeb Bush, if the election were held today, both at 45%. Yeah. You're not buying it.
Well, I don't think this poll is very good for Jeb Bush. He's slipping. And I think the real world hasn't been very kind to him. There was a story in the New York Times this morning. They had this whole shock and awe business. They were going to line up the donors and the policy experts. That's not happening. The coalescing that happened around his brother in the late 90s is not happening. And even what he did on this Indiana, what I'll call the anti-gay legislation, he stepped out there. Yeah, I'm all in support of Governor Pence, and then he kind of backed off.
Well, no, he said he was for the fix.
Well, he was for exactly. But I'm saying that he wasn't supporting any fix initially. He was saying, yes, I'm supporting Governor Pence. Before he went before donors in Silicon Valley, who were all in favor of gay rights, and he said, yeah, I want a fix. My point is, he's supposedly standing up and having some backbone. I don't think this really kind of demonstrated it in real time, whether he's going to kind of demonstrate that or not. And one final thing on the emails, when we hear every candidate subjected to the same scrutiny, because we know about Jeb Bush's and Scott Walker's and Marco Rubio's emails, the exact same history, in addition to Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice. Yeah.
Wait, personal private email servers completely controlling all emails and what gets deleted and what doesn't?
They were doing official business on personal emails.
Okay, but that's different than having a personal server.
And then saying to the American people, I wanted the convenience of one device when in fact she was using two.
We won't relitigate that because we'll be here for another 5 minutes. Although I'd love to spend the time with both of you. Thank you both for coming in. Good to see you.